Welcome back to the GCN Racing News Show. Coming up this week, is this where Tadej Pogacar will make history? I'll be taking a deep dive into the routes for the 2026 Tour de France. This week in the world of racing though, we also learnt how much power you need to be Andrew Feather in a hill climb. Harry McFarlane won the British Hill Climb Champs with an average power of 708 watts, or over 10 watts a kilo, over a 2-minute 15-second effort. Whew. We also learned that we got exclusive access to Isaac Del Toro with GCN in Espanol. The video has English subtitles and there's an option for auto dubbing too. So if you want to hear from one of the biggest talents in pro cycling, make sure you go and check that out. Del Toro won the Mexican TT and Road Race Champs last week, finishing off a stellar season. And finally, we learnt that Harry Leveresen is an absolute beast on the track. The Dutch rider swept all 4 sprint events and took his 20th career gold medal at the World Track Championships in Chile last week. Today though, we are talking about the Tour de France, as last Thursday in Paris the route was announced for both men's and women's races. The headline, it is going to be a cracker. Starting with the men's race, where will Tadej Pogacar win his 5th yellow jersey? I know I'm saying it, but in all likelihood, that's probably what's going to happen, let's face it. I'm saying most probably though, he will seal it on Alpe d'Huez. The men's route will see a double ascent of the climb on 2 stages, right at the end of the race, on stage 19 and 20, and what a finale that will be. The new Montmartre finish also remains on the final stage, which I think all of us will rejoice over, as that was a real marvel to watch last year. But yeah, 2 consecutive summit finishes on Alpe d'Huez. The second of those, on the penultimate day of the race, doesn't go up the traditional side, but it has a total of 5,600 metres of climbing through the stage, crossing both the Croix de Fer and the Glibier, before finishing on the Col de Turenne, which is found just to the east of the traditional Alpe d'Huez climb. It's a much smaller road, a real kind of mountain track to be honest, and a kind of hidden gem in the area. I've ridden it before and it's going to be an incredible summit finish to see at the Tour. Before that though, there will be the traditional Alpe d'Huez finish on a much shorter, punchier stage. A whole load of fireworks, I think, stored up for those days. It's drawn criticism from some quarters though, with some saying that it lacks imagination to return to the Alp. I personally disagree. I think it's going to create an incredible focal point for fans and an amazing atmosphere too to finish the race off. Turenne also I think provides enough of an unknown to mix things up too. The rest of the race though has some other interesting twists that you should be aware of. So the race starts in Barcelona with a team time trial, but importantly, times are taken from the first rider to the line from each team. So already here, GC favourites are going to be to the fore. That is an interesting quirk to the stage, and one that has drawn some comments from the likes of Visma Lease Bike CEO Richard Plugger. Essentially, it could just be one rider who gets the line solo, and that is definitely going to change the tactics, because basically it's one massive lead out for your GC leader or potential stage winner. I'm looking forward to seeing how it pans out though, personally. Another interesting change is that 7 flat sprint stages will each see 2 intermediate sprints as a way of mixing up the green jersey classification and hopefully putting sprinters head to head more. The Tour though heads to France after the Grand Depart, crossing the Pyrenees early on, stage 3. The summit finish after around 4,000 metres of climbing. Things stay in the Pyrenees too, with stage 6's final climb being the 20-kilometre long Gavinier-Gedre after taking on the Aspan and the Tourmalet. Expect big action in the first week. July the 14th, Bastille Day, is another one to take note of. A huge amount of climbing through the massive Centrale, including La Lorient, where Vinegar managed to outsprint Pogacar back in 2024. The final stage of the second week will see a new climb added to the race, the Plateau de Soulaison. Already featured in the Dauphiné, it's 11 kilometres at over 9%, so a serious test at the end of another 4,000 plus metre climbing day. The other potential plot twist will come on stage 16, a 26-kilometre TT from Avian-les-Bains, preceding those Alpe d'Huez stages. It offers a chance for Evenepoel to flip the script. I, for one, am pretty excited about this route, I think. The atmosphere on Alpe d'Huez especially is going to be electric. I'm already planning on how to get down there with the double header of racing. It is going to be some conclusion to the Tour. Let us know what you think of the 2026 men's routes in the comments below though. Over in the women's Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift, on that name actually, they announced they will be extending that partnership until at least 2029, which is great news for the race, I think. The route for the Femmes follows a similar pattern and format to previous years that has worked well. 9 stages and minimal transfers between each, heading through 3 regions of France. Also, like in previous years, the key focus is around one big summit finish stage, like Alpe d'Huez, Tourmalet and Planche de Belfi of previous editions. Next year, the race will tackle Mont Ventoux on stage 7 in what will surely be one of the key deciders for the yellow jersey. In fact, next year's race has more climbing this year, 18,795 metres of elevation gain compared to last year's 17,240 metres. Starting in Switzerland with a hilltop finish to kick things off, followed by a sprint finish in Geneva, the race then gradually heads south before concluding in Nice. Stage 4 sees a 21-kilometre individual TT to Dijon, but actually, I think looking at the stages announced at first glance, it's those final 3 stages where I believe most will be trying to keep their powder dry for. You have that big summit finish to Ventoux on the 7th stage. Then the 8th and 9th stages are centred around Nice. The 8th stage is the longest too, 175 kilometres with 2 puncher climbs in the finale, including somewhat technical descents as you enter the city. It's the final stage though which will be a real beast and arguably has the chance of being more decisive than that finish to Mont Ventoux. 4 ascents of the Col d'Aires, with the final ascent including the steeper Col de Quatre Chemins, before dropping down to the finish in Nice. So you've got 3 ascents of 7.7 kilometres at 5.9% and 1 final ascent of 6 kilometres at 7.6%, all in 99 kilometres. I imagine Pauline from Prevost will like the sound of these stages, but let me know what you think down below. And also, don't forget you can catch a full season of bike racing live on Discovery Plus or Max, including a full season of Cyclocross, which is now in full swing. Onto that Cyclocross now, the weekend saw Exact Cross Herdestrand and Super Prestige Overijzer. It was Fem van Empel who celebrated her 50th Cyclocross win in the women's Exact Cross, whilst Joris Nieuwenhuis took the win in the men's. The following day in the Super Prestige, Michael van Torenhout managed to beat Pim Ronhaar after a tit-for-tat battle all race, whilst Emil Verstringen took 3rd. That win cementing van Torenhout's lead in the series. In the women's, it was Italian Sara Casasola who won solo ahead of Lucinda Brand and Aniek van Alphen who rounded out the podium. The Track World Championships also took place last week out in Chile. As we mentioned at the top of the show, Harry Leveration stole the show in the men's sprint events, but there were plenty of other big performances across the competition. Now look, I'm personally biased here, but Ireland deserve a huge shout out. They finished 6th on the medal table, mainly thanks to Laura Gillespie, who made history by winning the elimination race, becoming Ireland's first ever women's track world champion and also their first men's or women's track world champion in more than a decade. What a ride, and big congratulations Lara. She beat Katie Archibald to silver in the final sprint to the line. Archibald having her own success at the Champs too though, taking the win in the Madison with Maddie Leach. In the men's points race, Josh Tarling took the points race gold, the first in the event since 2016 for the Brits. The Brits wouldn't feature though in the men's team pursuit however, with Denmark edging Australia for gold and New Zealand taking bronze. But the British did take the individual men's and women's gold thanks to Josh Charlton and Anna Morris. Elsewhere, Lorena Wiebes took a great win in the women's scratch race and also took gold in the Omnium event. With 22 events across the championships, it would be the Netherlands who topped the medal table with 8 gold, 2 silver and 1 bronze, 11 medals in total. GB were just behind in 2nd and Denmark were in 3rd. Also, as we said at the top of the show, the British Hill Climb Championships took place over the weekend. We were there to catch the action and also take part ourselves in a hill climb rematch. Stay tuned to GCN to see how we got on. It was an incredible event to witness and take on, just such a brilliant atmosphere. Harry McFarlane took the men's race win with a huge performance and an incredible power output, over 700 watts for 2 minutes. He beat Kieran Katanak and Andrew Feather into second and third respectively, whilst Rachel Galla took her first win in the women's race, beating 3-time champ Eilidh Gardner and Madeline Hayward. There were unique superlight bikes galore, and our best finds from the race are in a video up today on the GCN Tech channel, so catch it if you've got a minute. Just one more quick shout out from that race actually while I'm talking about it. I'm not sure if any of you remember Ruby Isaac. As a kid, she kind of went viral doing these incredible tricks on her rollers from home. And we actually even had her here on the channel 4 years ago too. Well, Ruby won the junior women's race at the Hill Climb Championships, which is incredible. Makes me feel very old, but huge congratulations, Ruby. In other news and transfer movements from pro cycling, Rafa announced they are set to sponsor USA Cycling through to 2029 with an eye on the LA Olympics in 2028. This comes off the back of their exit from World Tour sponsorship and sees them move towards supporting grassroots racing and the national team in the USA. Tom Pidcock's squad Q36.5 announced they will use Pinarello bikes next season, switching from Scott in a much rumoured change. It also appears they have applied for World Tour status for 2026, formally submitting their application to the UCI, the results of which will be announced December the 10th. Interestingly, in that application, the team name is listed as Pinarello Q36.5, potentially alluding to the bike brands coming on board as a title sponsor. Also in that application list was Cycling Academy, formerly Israel Premier Tech. The team had announced it will be changing its name. Again, it remains to be seen if Cycling Academy will be the squad's new name going forward. On the pro team side of things, George Hincapie's Modern Adventure Pro Cycling's paperwork also went through, with all signs pointing to the pro squad out of the USA going ahead for next year. Alison Jackson, winner of Paris-Roubaix, also announced she was departing EF Education Oatly in a surprise move to French squad Saint-Michel Preference Home over 93 on a 2-year contract. While Powers will also be moving from XDS Astana to Unibet Rose Rockets in what is a coup for the Dutch squad. Founded by Dutch YouTuber and ex-pro Bas Tietema, the team has strengthened their roster for next year with the likes of Dylan Groenewegen also coming across. Anton Charming will also be moving from Astana. He's signed with Uno X Mobility. And last up, interestingly, during the week, the UCI recommended against ketone use after a multi-year study looking into its effects. The conclusion from this work was that ketones have no effect in terms of performance gain or recovery. The sports governing body didn't go as far as banning them though, saying that it appears they are safe to consume, but instead advises against using them based on the fact that they don't actually do anything. So their advice basically is not to bother. One supplement with a lot of hype and attention, but it appears after these latest investigations that earlier findings into their effectiveness have been contradicted. Actually, also last bit of news, the Vuelta also put forward plans for its start next year. It's going to be a 9.6 kilometre TT, which will kick the race off in Monaco, taking on the famous F1 course in the Principality to get the race underway. Right, that is about all we've got time for this week. Let me know what you think of the tour route in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching, folks, and we'll see you on the next one.